What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, this is my poker vlog. Today we're playing a 5-5 and no-limit cash game session at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas. I'm gonna buy into the game for $3,000. Wish me luck. This is for entertainment only. I am not a professional poker player. I'm not trying to be a poker coach. I'm trying to share the fun of the games I'm playing. Enjoy the action. All right, let's get started. We have a $10 button straddle and the small blind makes it $30. Folds around to me and I've got pocket tens. I decide I'm gonna 3-bet this. I prefer to be in control, decide how big this pot's gonna be, keep this guy guessing, and if he ends up 4-betting me pre-flop, well then I know he's got a monster and I can get out of the way, but he just calls and we're gonna go to a flop. The flop is King Jack 9 with 2 clubs. The other good thing about 3-betting this hand is he's gonna check to me and now I can take a free card. I had a gut shot on the flop and now I turn an open-ender. I was thinking if he checked I was gonna bet, but he just leads into me for $150. I'm just gonna call and see what the river is. I've got showdown value at this point, but my hand's not good enough to raise and I river a straight. The small blind checks. And as for sizing here on this river, I don't think he's gonna put me on a 10 very often, which would mean I can bet a lot. But on the other hand, I don't think his hand is very strong at all. At best, he might have a jack. So I bet 300 into 500 and he just folds. Guys, I gotta go.
Get a lucky.
This hand starts with a $10 straddle and then...
Oh!
Here we go.
Oh, hello! No gamble, no future!
Just encouraging.
That's right, I put on the quintuple $160 straddle. I don't mind doing this a few times per night. The good news is I get saved because it's very rare to see the 10, 20, 40 even happen. So the chances that the person on my right, which happens to be Albert, even gets a chance to put the 80 on is pretty rare. And the $10 straddle wakes up with a hand and shoves it all in. It folds around to me. All right, we can look together, right?
Okay.
That's a fold. That's gonna be a call, I guess. How much do you have? 1,000?
13?
Ugh,
1275?
that's a lot. Yeah, less.
Are you gonna borrow some money?
No. No, I don't. I want him to have like 700.
Alright, let's see if let's rabbit. Rabbit!
No rabbit.
Yay!
Here, you know what? Give me a rack and let me get some of these.
After saving $1,300 against Ace King, I'm gonna get Ace King and I'm gonna put it to work. There's only a $10 straddle in this hand, so I make it $35. Get called by the hijack. We're going heads up to the flop. That's a good flop. Ace Jack 7 with 2 diamonds. I'm gonna c-bet this flop. I bet $40. My opponent calls. Going to a turn. The turn is a complete brick and almost probably 90% of the time I just barrel this card with this hand. But against this exact opponent, I decided to check. She's an aggressive player, she's pretty sticky, and she also likes to bluff. And I'm gonna give her a chance to put some money in this pot without the best hand. She bets $65 and I call. Now the river's a queen, so if she had ace jack or ace queen, we're in big trouble. We're basically just gonna check call every river. So I check to her. She bets 115, which is a reasonable amount, and I'm just gonna call. She shows queen 7? She has 2 pairs, she had a 7 on the flop and river to queen. Well, we gave her a rope and then she got there. All right, I've got a $25 button straddle and the small blind raises to 100, the big blind calls, a middle position player calls, and I looked in at 7-4 suited on the button and I'm getting 4-1. I'm gonna call the $75 extra and see a flop. Got 4 ways to the flop. The flop is king 4-3 with 2 hearts and 1 club. I do have clubs. I was kind of surprised that everybody checked to me. I've got a pair, a backdoor straight draw, and a backdoor flush draw. So I go ahead and bet $300. The small blind, who I'm just gonna call Sticky from now on, calls. The other players are thinking about it. But they're both gonna get out of the way. Heads up to the turn. Oh, it's a 4. If I didn't have the best hand, I have the best hand now, unless she has pocket kings. She checks. I put her all in. She only had 225 behind. Yeah, she called 300, only having 525. River's a 4. I have quads. Yeah, I think I win this hand. Yep, that's gonna do it. I don't know what kind of shape I was in on the flop, but what a run out. This weekend, I will be in Austin at Texas Card House for the live stream. On Friday, I'm going to be doing commentary, and on Saturday, I'm going to be playing. Check out the YouTube account, TCH Live, for more details. Hit subscribe to get notifications for when I'm live. The under the gun player has a $20 straddle out there. I look down at 7-6 suited. I make it $50 to go. Nobody else wants to play, but the big blind does call, and we go a heads up to the flop. I flop a pair and have a backdoor straight draw on a queen 8-6 2 diamond board. The big blind checks to me, and I bet $75. Yeah, he calls quickly. Let's see the turn card. Turn card's a 5 of clubs. That gives me an open-ended straight draw. I'm definitely gonna bet this turn card. There's times where I'm betting the worst hand and I can get him to fold an 8, but there's also times where I just have the best hand and I'm protecting my equity. I bet 135. He takes a little bit longer now, but he calls. River's the ace of spades. My opponent's thinking. He leads out $500. He basically bets pot on this river card. Now, if he had a hand like ace-x of diamonds, he made an ace now. He could have been on a flush draw and rivered an ace. But what hands are going to want to lead this river? Is he really going to lead with just an ace? If somehow he has ace-queen, why would he bet so big? I don't know if I believe this bet. I'm just going to call. And he shows ace-8 of clubs. He called with second pair and rivered 2 pair. With a $10 straddle under the gun, I look down at Jack-10 offsuit and I decide to make it $50. Sticky calls. We're gonna go heads up to the flop. Oh, top 2 pair. Yeah, I just check. Sticky only has $225, so I check to give her a chance to put it in, and she puts it in the middle. It's not a great run out, and she shows a set of 7s. After that hand, I decided to add on $3,000. I start this hand with a button straddle of $25. I get raised to $85, folds around to me. Ooh, I've got Jack-10 offsuit again. Great. I call. We're going heads up to the flop. The flop is 8-7-6. I completely miss. He checks and I check. Turns a 3 of spades, puts a flush draw out there, and he checks again, so I started getting some ideas. Maybe I could steal this pot. I bet 150, and he basically snap calls. And the river's the 5 of spades. This board looks horrible for the pre-flop raiser. He checks again, and guys, I'm going for it. I bet 300 and he snap folds. Check out my clothing line, Razor Clothing, at razorclothing.com. Hooker t-shirts, hats, and hoodies. I'm in the big blind and there's a $20 under the gun straddle. A player makes it 60 bucks to go from middle position. Folds around to me and I have pocket aces. What a spot this is. I'm gonna 3-bet this hand pretty much every time. Make it $170. The $10 straddle folds and the $20 straddle folds. So it's back around to the original raiser who calls. Oh, the flop is ace king 3. Oh, is there any chance this guy flatted with pocket kings? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and c-bet this flop. If he has a hand like jacks or tens, he's not gonna call anyway. So I bet $150, just hoping he has that case ace. And he does call. Man, this could be a big hand. All right, the turns of 4, that shouldn't scare him if he has an ace. Especially if he has ace king, we're gonna have a big pot. Even ace queen will probably call. I don't wanna bet too big though. I bet $350. And he's thinking about this one. Is there any way he's gonna raise? No, he uncapped his cards. No, don't uncap your cards. Put a chip back on. Man, he had queens. He probably wasn't calling any more bets. With a $10 straddle under the gun and a few limpers, I look down at pocket tens in the big blind. I'm gonna raise it up. I make it 60 bucks. Guys, please hit the subscribe button. That's how vloggers measure their fans. Thank you. All right, we got 2 callers. We got 3 callers. All right, well, let's hit a 10. Nope. Flop is king, jack, 8, rainbow. I'm just gonna check, basically in check fold mode at this point, but it checks around. Yeah, turns a jack. I'm still in check fold mode, I check. It's checking around again. The river's a 5. If somebody had a king or a jack, I think they would have bet this turn. I bet small, I bet $100. Folds over to our friend Sticky. She's thinking about it. She's changed seats if you're wondering. She's now over in the 8 seat. Yeah, she's thinking about this. She calls 100. The other player folds. I show my hand. And she mucks. I'm the under the gun straddle this time. Folds around to a late position player who makes it $80 to go. I look down at 3, 5 suited. I make the call. You should definitely try this at home. I want everyone out there defending with 5, 3 suited. All right, we get heads up to go to the flop. Oh, a flop of flush draw on a paired board, 10, 10, 9. I check and he checks quickly. I turn a 3. I've got a pair and a flush draw now. I'm gonna lead out, I bet $125. Yeah, he calls pretty quick again. This reminds me of that last hand we played. I river a flush with a 7 of hearts. I'm pretty sure I have the best hand. I'm gonna bet this for value. I bet $300. He goes in the tank for quite some time. Don't know what he could have. I guess he's thinking about calling with ace high, but he folds. On my $10 under the gun straddle, we've got a bunch of limpers. I look down at 6 deuce and I check. We used to call this hand the toaster. I used to bluff with this hand a lot, but the games I'm playing now, they don't really need a bluffing hand. I flop an open into straight draw. I'm just gonna check though. Checks around fast and I turn a straight. All right, I'm gonna be betting now. I bet 50 bucks. The decision is over to Sticky. She's thinking about her options. I expect her to call with basically any part of this board. Oh, and she raises me to $175. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna call. Let's see what the river is. The river's a 7 of spades, so I'm glad the flush draw bricked out. Probably still have the best hand. I checked a sticky. Oh, she's putting chips together. More chips? She bets $370. I just don't know if I can fold this hand to her. There are some hands I should be folding in this spot, like probably trip 7s and probably any 8, but I don't know if a straight's one of those hands. I call, she shows, Jack 10 for the nut straight. Ah, nice hand. Guys, it's been a while, but we have a mystery hand. Albert on my right makes it $50 to go, and I 3-bet to 150. You've already seen some of the hands I've been 3-betting with on this session, and if you're a follower of mine, you have an idea of what I like to 3-bet with, and we get a cold call on the button from Sticky. It's back around to Albert. He's got a decision. He decides to call. We're going 3 ways to the flop in a 3-bet pot. The flop is Queen 8-6 Rainbow. Albert checks to me. And guess what? The mystery hand is getting C-bet. So I bet 250. So what kind of hands do you think I would C-bet on this flop against 2 players? Sticky folds. It's over to Albert. He calls. And the turn is the Queen of Hearts. Still a rainbow board. Albert checks to me. So think about what it means if I bet this turn card or I check this turn card. I end up checking the turn. The river is the deuce of diamonds. Action's on Albert. He's thinking about making a bet. Yeah, he's gonna bet. He bet $675. All right, guys. What kind of hands do you think I can have here that I'm thinking about calling? Looks like I haven't folded yet. I get my chips together and I call $675. Albert says, you got it, but I make him show or muck. And I show ace king high. Is that what you guessed?
Nice.
We have a $10 straddle and then a $25 straddle. The rules in this game are that you just have to straddle at least more than the previous straddle, but each straddle is no limit. I have pocket 7s and I make it 75. I get 2 callers, we go to a flop and there's a 7. Queen 9-7 with the 9-7 of clubs. Man, there are tons of hands that my opponents can have to continue on this flop. King Queen, Queen Jack, and Queen 10 are all top pair. Queen 9 and the infamous Queen 7 are 2 pair. Jack 10 is an open-ender. Then we have Jack 9, 10-9, 8-9, which are all pairs with backdoor straight draws. 9-7 is 2 pair. And last but not least, 7-8 for bottom pair with a backdoor straight draw. Oh, by the way, they have none of those hands. Stack update, I've got about $5,000, so I'm down about $1,000 at this point. With a $25 button straddle out there, I'm in the big blind and I got the first chance to try to steal that $25. I raise it up to 75 with ace-8 suited. Under the gun player calls, I guess I won't be stealing it, and the button re-raises to $200. I think I'm gonna call this, see a flop. The under the gun player agrees to the same thing. We're going 3 ways to the flop for 200 each. Well, I flop an ace. I've actually got a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. We check to the button. He bets half pot for $300. Yep, I'm gonna call. I call 300 and under the gun player folds. We're heads up. Turns a 5, which gives me a gut shot straight draw. I just check though, and he checks. Now the river's a 4. Can I bet for value? I think it's really hard for him to call me with something that isn't an ace. And look at all those worse aces that actually beat me, so I just check. He hasn't checked yet. He actually bets $400 on this river. Kind of wondering what it is he's trying to represent. I call. He says, "You got it, I missed. 2K pot coming my way." We've got the $40 triple straddle on in this hand, and a player in middle position limps, and I decide to make it 225 to go. Players are folding. Gets around to a middle position player who decides to call. The button folds, so we're heads up. Oh, and I flopped the king high flush with a gut shot straight flush draw. The way that I play, I don't really slow play much. I c-bet a ton. Although I always talk about not being super GTO, I do think this is a spot. I need to bet this flop because I would normally bet with a lot of my hands. I bet $160 and he folds. It's just too bad he didn't have something. I'm in middle position with pocket fives and a player on my right limps in, and you know how I feel about limping. I decide to make it 40 to go. We start getting some calls. Everybody wants to see a flop for 40 bucks. All right, let's go to this flop 5 ways. The flop is King 7-5 Rainbow. I've got bottom set after raising pre-flop. As I talked about before, I don't really like slow playing. I want to build a pot. I bet $130. I get one call. Players are slowly folding. We've got 2 callers now. The turn is a 4 of diamonds, and when this card came out, I just started thinking if I continue betting on this turn, it's just gonna look like I have ace king, and I'm gonna get no action from a hand such as king jack or king queen, or even something like pocket 9s or 8s, so I decided to check, and they both checked. The river's a 10, and unless someone has pocket 10s or 6-8, I should have the best hand. I'm gonna get one more street of value here, and I'm gonna bet this river card. I bet $325. Oh, the player on my left calls, so we're getting one caller. We got one more player in this hand. Can we get 2 callers? No, he folds. I show my set, and we see an angry muck. I'm in the big blind. There's a button straddle of 25, and Albert's in the small blind, and he's already raised to 75. I look down at ace king suited, and I make it 225 to go. It's folding around to Albert. Man, it almost looks like he wants to 4-bet me. But he just calls. All right, we're going to a flop. At least I'm in position. Ace king suited. Oh, it's a small flop, but I flopped the nut flush draw. Albert checks to me. It's 475 in the pot. I bet 220. Albert calls. Going to a turn card. It's the jack of spades. I have the nut flush. It is so rare. You guys have been watching this vlog. How often do I actually make the nuts? It's just not very often. Albert checks to me, and I bet $400. Oh, Albert calls. I'm setting up a big river bet. That's a good card. It's basically a brick. I didn't want the board to pair, mainly because that would scare him and potentially keep me from getting maximum value, because I could be scared about a full house, but not on this river. I bet $900. Albert quickly calls, and I show him my nuts. Oh, he had aces. This hand is just limping around, and I'm in the small blind with 5-6 suited, and I call. The flop comes out 6-9-4. I flop a pair and a flush draw. Also got a couple backdoor straight draws. I bet $35. I get 2 callers. Make it 3 callers. We're going to a turn card. The turn's a jack. I'm just gonna check now. I don't want to build too big of a pot if I'm just gonna brick this river. And under the gun +1 bets $65. I'm definitely gonna call this bet. Oh, and the hijack calls before I get a chance to. I'm just gonna call. The river's a 5. I don't make a flush, but I river 2 pair, and I think this is the best hand. I'm actually gonna lead out in this spot. I know this is kind of weird, I don't do it very often. I lead out $140. Under the gun folds, it's over to the hijack. The hijack raises me to $400. I snap call, and he says, you got it, I missed. People just love trying to bluff me. Stack update, now I've got over $10,000 in my stack. The hand starts with a $10 under the gun straddle, and a player in middle position raises to $55. I've got pocket 10s in the cutoff. I decide to 3-bet to $150. It's folding around, and that raiser decides to call. 2 red 10s go into a flop. The flop is 7-5 deuce, so we have an overpair, and he just bets right into me. He bets $200 on this flop, and I just call. The turn's a 4, and he checks to me. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to bet this card. I'm just gonna take a free river, and it's a deuce. Pair's the bottom card, and you know what I always say about that when you have an overpair. On this river, he bets $300 and I call. He announces 2 pair and I just show because I know what that means. That means he had a 7 or 4 or maybe pocket 8s, so I take it down. And this is the part of the evening where we sit on the sidelines and watch a bunch of people play a hand that makes absolutely no sense. I don't even know if I can really commentate. This hand was like 100 and something pre-flop called 3 ways or 4 ways, and they just get a 3-way all in on an 8-3-3 flop. I mean, these are some decent stacks. Nobody was really short. They're just all in. It's an interesting river card. The flush gets there, but nope, nobody had a flush draw. We have 5-3 for trips, that makes sense. And king 8 for a top pair, and the other hand is in the muck. With an under the gun straddle of 10 and 20, the button just limps in for 20, and the small blind raises to 65 before I look down at ace king. And I'm gonna 3-bet this. I make it 2-10. The $20 straddle folds, and the button folds. The small blind calls, we're going heads up to the flop. Ace of diamonds, king of hearts, and the flop is king, jack, 3, all clubs. And he leads into me. He bets $250 on this flop, and I call. Turns a 5 of hearts. He checks, and I check. The river's a 7 of hearts. On this river, he checks. Now it's time to go for value. I don't think this guy has a flush. I'm gonna bet $410 and he snap calls. I feel like I played my ace kings pretty good through the second half of this vlog, but not so much on that first one. After a painful amount of time, he does finally muck and I win the hand. And this is my stack at the end of the night. I originally bought in for $3,000, added on $3,000, and I cashed out $12,000, a $6,000 win. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you love this video, please hit the subscribe button and you'll get notifications when my next video comes out. Usually it's every Friday.